I got a question this morning from a listener online who said, are there any Saints players that you would sign to a 10-year contract? And really, I did give it some thought today. There's only one. There's one answer to the question. There's only one. I mean, I could give out some others that you'd consider, but bottom line is there's one. And it's Ryan Ramczyk. It's the Saints starting right tackle. Ramczyk just turned 26 years old. So in 3 seasons, he's played in 47 games and he's started 47 games. He has been durable. He's not had any injury issues. You're talking about a guy at 26 that if you sign him to a 10-year deal today, he would play through the age of 36, which is not unreasonable. We've seen elite-level offensive tackles play well into their 30s. Andrew Whitworth being the centerpiece of that argument, who's pushing 40 now and is still playing at an elite level on the left side. Ramczyk, as we all know, got into football late before he moved up to Wisconsin and then was drafted in the first round as a very raw prospect by the Saints, but has started his 3 years in the NFL. So Ramczyk is absolutely the answer. Like, if you were going to sign a player to a 10-year deal, he is the answer. He's the only one I think that you would legitimately do it. If you were going to consider others, the next one on the list that I would consider would be Will Lutz. The Saints have already given Will Lutz the richest contract for a kicker ever. They signed him to a $20.25 million contract. So they're already committed to Lutz, who just turned, I think yesterday, turned 26 years old. So another 26-year-old. And it's not unprecedented to think that kickers can kick well into their 30s or their 40s. Adam Vinatieri's almost 50. He's still trying to kick in the league. Janikowski, Morton Anderson, Gary Anderson, Matt Bryant kicked until he was 44 years old for the Falcons. Like, it's not unrealistic to think that you could have a kicker kick into his middle or late 30s or even into his 40s and still be elite at that age. So I'm not saying you'd ever give a kicker a 10-year deal, but he would be sort of the next guy on the list. The most obvious other ones to consider would be Mike Thomas and Marshon Lattimore. Mike Thomas is 27 years old. He's coming off a year, obviously, where he broke the single-season receiving record and also was the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year. He's spectacular. I think the absolute world of Mike Thomas, and I never want him to play in another uniform other than New Orleans. But signing Mike Thomas at 27 years old to a 10-year deal feels like signing Albert Pujols to a 10-year deal when the Angels did it. They overpaid for a guy that at the end of that contract was not going to be worth the $250 million contract that they signed him to. In baseball, it's obviously different because there's no salary cap, but I'll give you a for instance. Larry Fitzgerald is one of the greatest receivers of all time. And this past season, at 35 years old, Larry Fitzgerald had 75 catches for 804 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is a very solid season. It's not an all-pro, greatest of all time, best receiver in the NFL type season. It's very good for, say, a number 2, 75 for 804 and 4. That was at 35 years old. We're talking about Mike Thomas at the end of this deal would be 37, 2 years beyond where Fitzgerald was this past year. It's hard to imagine a receiver into his late 30s still being the best in the NFL. Can you be productive? Absolutely. T.O., Jerry Rice. There have been Randy Moss, great receivers who were super productive into their 30s, into their middle, late 30s as well. But it's hard to imagine justifying the price you'd pay on a 10-year deal for a receiver in his middle or late 30s, which is where Mike Thomas would be. And then there's Marshon Lattimore, and I think this is an absolute no, because Marshon Lattimore is only 24, and he was amazing as a rookie, won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and has been up and down in the 2 years since. I think that's very obvious to say. And in part, we might look some injuries. Maybe being abused by Adam Thielen in the playoff game has left a sour taste for some, which I can't say that I totally blame you, but everybody's entitled to a bad day, especially at that position. But more so, the reality is for cornerbacks, it's almost like running backs, that when most elite cornerbacks hit the age of 30, it's like, boom, you fall off a cliff. We saw this with Darrelle Revis. I mean, Darrelle Revis was, Revis Island. Dude's in Dick's Sporting Goods commercials. I mean, he was the dude. I mean, he had a brand around him with Revis Island. And when he left the Jets and went to Tampa, it was a gigantic story, and he just vanished. I mean, that drop happens quickly. And there are some that still play in an elite level late. Champ Bailey did it. That's difficult. But mostly when cornerbacks get up in age and they can no longer cover at that level, they kick back and play safety. It's hard to justify that, even because Lattimore at 24 at the end of that would be 34, which is hard to justify. It's more looking at the end of the contract, what it would look like. So really the answer, there's only one. I mean, the answer is Ryan Ramczyk. If there is a Saints player that you would consider giving a 10-year contract to, the only guy is Ryan Ramczyk. That's it. That's where the list starts and stops. You can consider others, but if you were realistically considering doing it, which the Saints wouldn't, because I don't think any team in the NFL outside of Kansas City in a super outlier of a situation with a young franchise quarterback who's already won an MVP, won a Super Bowl MVP, and you can lock him up through his 20s and into his middle 30s. I get it. And you maybe get to beat the market a little bit as well in the back end if he continues playing at this level. So congrats to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think we're going to see anybody else signing 10-year contracts anytime soon. But if there were a Saint that would do it, Ryan Ramczyk would be the only that would really qualify. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.